There's a big difference between asking who is experiencing burnout and why they're experiencing burnout in the first place.
Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go. Hiring is hard, especially when you're in a company where you're hiring all the time. We've been working behind the scenes to create something specifically for those of you who are hiring on average 3 to 4 jobs every month. Cue our unlimited hiring subscription. The jobs in our unlimited subscription are equivalent to the pro job package that we offer, where those positions are listed on the site, shared across all social media accounts, and included in our weekly emails. Your company also receives an annual dedicated email sent to all of our subscribers that talks more about the work you do, the positions you're hiring for, and why candidates should apply for your roles. And did we mention that your accounting department will love you because they'll only have to reconcile one payment every month compared to a transaction for every job you post? Hey, it's the little things. For more information on Of the West's unlimited subscription, you can visit ofthewest.co/hiring. Oh, you guys, I am so ecstatic to have you here for another episode of Leaders of the West. Today, we are sitting down with one of my friends, Sammie McCracken. Sammie and I have known each other for years now. I want to say close to 10 years. And she is somebody who is so monumental in my story and the story of the West. So if you guys have ever heard the origin story of the West, you know that Justin and I would consistently get calls from people looking for employees or looking for employers, new jobs. And one time in March of 2020, I got 3 or 4 calls in a single week from people who were either looking for a new job or looking for a new employee. And Sammie was one of those. Sammie was the very last call of those that I got. And I truly credit her to being the light bulb in my moment of, holy cow, if this many people are calling and texting me, trying to get connected with somebody that they need in my own personal network, this has to be an issue on a larger scale. And as you guys know, the rest is history. That is how Of the West was born. So to have Sammie here today really is just such a full circle moment. But that's enough about me and Sammie and our history. So Sammie is the owner of Buckskin Rowe, which is a full-service marketing agency that focuses on clients in the equine world. So anything when it comes to barrel racing, reining, quarter horse racing, like you name it in the equine world, Sammie is going to touch it in some way, shape, or form. She also spent years working in marketing in the retail industry, which is how she and I initially connected. And today we are going to talk about the conversation that is burnout. But we're not going to talk about it from a, oh, woe is me perspective. This is something that, as you will hear me mention in the show, Sammie and I have talked a lot about. A lot of that being from the perspective of leaders and how to be great leaders and recognize burnout in those around us, whether that is coworkers or others who are maybe working for us in our team that we are leading, and how to really combat it in them. But I think that, again, in order to see it in others, you really have to be aware of it and see it in yourself. So that is what today's conversation is about. Sammie has done a lot of research, whether that is specifically for herself, for employees. She references a lot of really great resources that we will share with you guys down in the show notes for today. So I feel like I've talked enough. Let's just get right to it. This is Sammie McCracken. You are listening to Leaders of the West. Sammie, I have been looking forward to this conversation for months now. I guess it's been that long ago since we had first talked about having this conversation, and here we are. And I really am looking forward to sitting down and talking about this with you and with our audience, because I know that it's something that you and I have both dealt with, and it's something that our listeners have as well. But before we get into burnout and combating that on a personal level, and then as a leader for the people that you work with and work for you. Give me a little bit of backstory as to who you are, your connection to the Western equine world. Give us all the ins and outs of who is Sammie McCracken.
Yeah, who am I? So Sammie McCracken, originally, I'll try to give you the very condensed, very condensed Cliff Notes version of this. So I'm an Oklahoma transplant, originally from Southwest Missouri. I live in what is considered, I guess you would say, the heart of quarter horse country. I live in Purcell, Oklahoma. Technically Washington. We moved here about 2 years ago, so our kids could go to school here in Washington. We love this community. It's a huge part of who we are. But as it relates to my career and my day-to-day life now, it is very much the heart of quarter horse country. And so be it quarter horse racing, barrel racing, big reining horse hub right outside of Oklahoma City, about 45 minutes south of Oklahoma City. So geographically, for what I do in terms of equine marketing, media management, I can be anywhere I need to be in about 15 minutes. I think my furthest client away is in Weatherford, Texas, which is only 3 hours. So when people ask me how I ended up here, so much of it has to do with geography. I will say that I am kind of a curated accident in how I've ended up in this space. I think if you look on social media for Buckskin Rowe or me, by the nature of social media, you see the visual side of it, which is photos and videos and things of that nature of all these really amazing, incredible equine athletes. And my background is very holistically in PR communications and marketing. That is what I went to school and got my degree in. And simultaneously, never, ever wanted to pick up a camera. But my very first client actually in the equine industry, who is still a very dear friend and good client today, was the first person that stuck a camera in my hand and said, hey, you need to learn how to use this because we're going to take yearling pictures next week. And that's been about 8-9 years ago now. Since then, I've really fought everything that had to do with a camera, but we're still here. Now my goal is to find people who are better at camera operators and editors than I am. And I just kind of get the privilege of sitting back and curating everything from my computer and the client interface piece. I spent some time straight out of college lived in North Carolina for a brief stint and did some marketing and development in NASCAR sports side of stuff, moved back and worked in fuels trade, Oklahoma, and then met my husband while I was there, ended up working for OU in higher education, kind of development and marketing there. And then ultimately was given the great gift of slowly pursuing my own entrepreneurship journey with Buckskin Rowe. Both on the equine side, I spent quite a bit of time initially in the Western at the outset, which is how you and I met, in the OG era of Western influencers. So that's kind of how I think we met. And
Yes.
the retail side of things, I've done market. And so I've spent quite a bit of time there. But ultimately, my passion and my love has always settled heavily in the eternal little girl horse loving person. And so now, while I'm not a professional barrel racer or a veterinarian, I still get to live out my equine horse girl dreams. Probably you know what? God has a weird way of doing it. Probably in an even more magical, better way than I could have ever curated. So yes, very fortunate. My kids go to school approximately 3 minutes to the east of me. I can make my whole circle in about 2.5, 3 minutes for both boys. I have my wife. I've got a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. They're both boys and they are extremely feral. They also have very little interest in horses whatsoever, which my husband says is great because it's substantially cheaper to like golf than it is to like horses. We have some land and we have some cattle down south of us. We had the opportunity to buy his grandparents' farm a couple years ago. And so that was a huge gift to us. And the boys love to go down there and go fishing. And we check the cows. And I think I've got a couple horses still turned out down there. But by and large, yeah, I spend day-to-day life in equine sports marketing. I've got an incredible team behind me, heavily in the barrel racing and reining industries as it is right now, and then AQHA, quarter horse racing.
I was going to ask, you and your sister Lauren are both wildly talented, and you are both kind of in this same like realm of when it comes to photography and marketing and all that includes. Did you guys grow up around horses, or did you both just get the bug?
No. So we definitely did grow up around horses. So yes, my sister, who's also my dearest best friend, she lives very close to us as well. She only lives about 10 minutes away also. And it's always a hard thing to explain because my sister and I, even to people in the industry that know us, we do the same things. We just have different clients, but we both do essentially the exact same things. She is able to do it in a slightly different way than I am, but we do the same thing. So we've both kind of accidentally fallen into these like jack of all trades, master of none. We're straight up YouTube University on everything that we do. Still every day, I feel like I'm still 22 trying to figure out how to turn this on, do this setting. Yes, we grew up in horses in Missouri. We both loved horses. We did the junior rodeo thing and then kind of shifted into, it's a very niche industry there, but we grew up in gaited horses. So specifically the Missouri Foxtrotter. So my dad, he was a horse trainer our entire life. So we absolutely spent our life, we joke, but it's true, we were raised in a barn. I am very thankful for that in a lot of ways, but mostly I think it just taught me really good work ethic, taught me how to have a lot of empathy and love for horses. But we did. I mean, riding 10 to 12 head of horses a day was not an uncommon thing. Throughout our entire life, we both played sports. So I think, just growing up in that space, while it's quarter horses now, and we've always loved and probably had a bigger passion for quarter horses, the industry is so much bigger. We grew up with them every single day. Did the junior rodeo thing, did all the rodeo stuff and barrel racing stuff that you do, but just on a much smaller scale in Missouri, simply because, and then we showed gaited horses. The gaited horses aren't really we show them. So it's a different kind of performance.
Wow. Okay. See, guys, I'm learning just as much as you are. I had no idea that was the side of the horse world or the equine world that you came from. Okay. So today's topic is something that you and I have talked a lot about privately together, right? Like via text or phone call. And I will say you are somebody that I really respect because these types of conversations, like we can all toss around the word burnout, but like, are you really actually burned out or are you just tired because like life takes work, right? But when it comes to this type of conversation, you are somebody I really respect because you are a high achiever. So you are somebody who's willing to put in the work and you are not going to make excuses. And so I know there is that group of people who you do kind of wonder, like, am I being lazy or like, am I, what is going on here? So you and I really have had a lot of raw and honest conversations about this, but what did it look like when you kind of first experienced this? Or how did you realize that this was more than just like, man, I'm having a tough week?
Yeah. So, I mean, to be honest, at the outset, I wouldn't have known because I think that, and growing up in the lifestyle we did, you have kind of the ability to build a high resiliency threshold for what hard means to you. And you hear the term, hard is relative. And it's true. Everyone's experience is relative. And so for me, it was like I grew up an athlete. So like hard is hard. You push through the pain, you fight through it, you keep going. I'm grateful for that mentality. It has been such a gift to me and something that I very much cherish and appreciate. But at the outset, I didn't know it was burnout. And I think that, stress, and again, this is just kind of a core piece of who I am. I'm also a believer in paying your dues, putting in the hard work, not getting paid for the hard work you do on the front end. Like that's just part of it for me. I'm very resistant to the entitlement mentality of like everyone deserves to just be on the same playing field and get a trophy.
Especially when you're early on in your career. But I'm going to stop there because like I could get on a soapbox. Continue on though.
Yeah, exactly. Like I could talk about that all day long. It could be a whole episode on its own. But so all of that to be said, this all kind of culminated in the same time. And it wasn't until, so there's a difference. And I think that this is something, I'm not a psychologist by any means. I will send you, and I would love to send you a couple of links that if your listeners are interested in listening to, there's some really great psychologists out there. Dr. Christina Maslach is one of them. Dr. Michael Leiter. I've listened to quite a few of their podcasts. She's written several books. It was actually my therapist that turned me on to her work because I just had this burning curiosity about burnout. Like you were saying, how do I know I'm not just tired? And really what the research will tell you, which they've been researching this term since the 70s, they'll say it's been around since like the 1820s, but really the 70s is when Dr. Christina Maslach started to bring it kind of into popular conversation and psychological communications. So you have the stress piece of it, which eventually gets you to this fatigue piece of it. And then burnout really culminates whenever you start to feel this very cynical, hostile, negative, burn it all down, walk away type of experience. And that takes time. And the interesting piece of it So the World Health Organization, not getting into the politics of who they are, but they said back in 2019, so pre-pandemic, burnout is a response to chronic job stressors that have not been successfully managed, right? So there's two parts that she points out in her podcast that I think that she points out as very relevant to that, and it's chronic job stressors. So it's not just the, hey, we've got a big event this week, so we're all going to be tired, and we know that's coming, and I'm good with it, right? Like that calendar tells me when I know I'm going to be really tired, and I'm cool with it. I see it coming. But the chronic job stressors, so it's something every day. As she refers to it, it's the pebble in the shoe. And whenever I was working in more of the dynamic corporate, more modern day corporate culture, bigger organizations specifically, it's very easy to start picking up on those like things that drive you crazy. It's the systems, it's the processes, it's the brokenness where no one will ask you the question that you really want them to ask you so you can answer with the answer that you really feel like they need to be like, hey, if we just fix this, like if we can just change our filing system to this, my life gets infinitely easier. So it's those chronic job stressors that are unsuccessfully managed, which is again, not asking the question. Me being me and, someone being young. And like you said, I'm a very driven achievement kind of human. We internalize that as like, are we being lazy? Am I not doing enough? Like, am I burned out? Or am I just, do I need to suck it up and move on? And so again, it's really that stress to extreme exhaustion, fatigue. For me, it culminated in this place of dread. I would wake up and it didn't matter how much sleep I got. I was tired and the thought of work made me dread it. Like I didn't want to do it. That just like weird, like bone weariness that exists in your brain and you're like, burn it down. My sister and I joke because we're both fire signs. So it's natural for us to just kind of want to set things on fire anyway. And there have been seasons in life where that's quite literally what we're doing. We're just like, set it on fire. I'm done with this. Like I'm walking out. Thankfully, I've gotten a little wiser as I've gotten, nearly 40.
It's funny how that happens, right?
Right? Like I'm like, okay, I'm a decade into this. I should really try something else. Like we should try a different practice. And so the other thing is that people assume, management assumes that burnout is going to be resolved with more vacation. And you need a break. You've been working really hard. You need a break. So you need some time off, or you need to meditate, or maybe you need to work, you need to run. You need to do something different. When really it's a lack of communication and management. And I think that that's been the interesting, there's a big difference between asking who is experiencing burnout and why they're experiencing burnout in the first place. And the who is one thing, but asking the why is hard. Because as a leader, then you have two choices. You can either address it or you can stick your head in the sand. And addressing it is often more work and more painful than just turning your head the other way. And so I think for you and I, the basis of this conversation kind of started in where I am today and the role that I fill is I have really great clients. I have my own business and my own team, but then I also have really incredible clients that I spend a lot of time with and I'm good friends with that run bigger organizations than the one I'm in. And I find myself in this unique place whenever I go to build content for a client and I'm talking to these employees and I'm picking up on things. And I'm an INTP by default. I've been tested and I've done some personality testing and different things like that. And I'm an INTP. So I'm a very introspective, intuitive kind of thinker. And so I tend to pick up on like, this person's really miserable, but they really they want to love their job, but they're really miserable because they've been here since 6 o'clock this morning and it's now bordering on 8 o'clock tonight. And like, I know this isn't the first day this has happened in in recent weeks. So you want to go in and shake both of them and be like, hey, go advocate for yourself. And then you want to walk into, the leadership and you want to be like, hey, you're going to lose a really good employee if you don't get it together and like ask them what's wrong with them. And so it's just this big lack in communication, I feel like.
No, it totally is. And I love it. Gosh, that was the perfect way to really like lay the foundation for this because there are a lot of different directions that we can go and need to go with this because it's something that we experience on an individual level that we see our peers or our coworkers or our friends experiencing. And so we want to be an advocate for them. It's something that we see on the business side as a leader that our employees may be facing. Again, maybe other people that we're working with that, maybe it's not laterally in that sense. So let's talk about the fact that you are a mom. you're a business owner, you work with a number of companies. How do you balance giving people what they need without pouring from an empty cup for yourself? Because I think that that is a perfect way to really start in recognizing burnout.
So the eternal balance question. I feel like this is such a quintessential question for our time. I feel like everyone needs someday we're going to look back and be like, these were the very unbalanced people that talked about balance their whole entire lives. So the eternal balance on question. So I'll be honest, I'm not much of a balanced human. And I think everyone to each their own. I am not much of a balanced human. I have tried it both ways. I really have. I'm a very I like to use myself as my own case study in a lot of things. So I've really tried. I just suck at balance and I've given it up. But I have found a good place of rest with it though. And I tend to rest with this acceptance and appreciation for just the natural ebb and flow of the life that I've curated. And sometimes that ebb and flow is the rapids where the guy's turning over in his kayak. And then sometimes the ebb and flow is a little more like still water. I might be able to fish if I liked fishing and I don't. So I've kind of just learned to embrace that with some very measurable resistance at times that I'm incapable of doing it all. I just can't do it all.
No, we can't.
We can't. And it took me a really long time. I wrestled with that so hard, especially early on. God, the sub 35 era of women is such a psychological mind trip because we just got a lot of growing up to do, but we still kind of want to live in 24 and it's just, and we feel like we're still 24, but we're really not. And our responsibilities are so much bigger than 24.
Absolutely. And I think too, you do kind of get in a groove when you're in your, early on in your career, right? And then maybe you get married and then you kind of have to find a new groove because it's not just you anymore. It's you and your spouse. And then, so you get that figured out. Well, then you throw a kid into the mix and now my life is upside down because I had this groove and now I don't. And also too, as you go through those changes in life, which are great changes, but again, leaving college or leaving home and going into your career, getting married, maybe having the first kid, having the second kid, all of those take time to get back into a groove. And I genuinely feel that the more changes you have, kind of the longer it takes you to get back into that comfortable of how am I going to, spread myself and do all of the things. It's kind of like that joke about baby weight, right? You're going to gain more the second and third and fourth pregnancy, or it's going to take it longer to come off. I kind of feel like that with managing your time and yourself and how you're going to give it all away.
Yeah.
Without, again, pouring from an empty cup it takes a little bit longer. So that's kind of why it feels like we're never in balance, but balance isn't effortless.
No, balance isn't effortless. It's reminded me, I was actually on social media and I don't follow a lot of the work stuff that I do on my personal account. I follow a lot of different things. And so one of them is I saw this infographic with consistency and it had 7 balls across the top and it's all of them are blue. This is what people think it looks like. And really consistency is there might be 10% in this ball and there might be, 80% over here and 15% here. But consistency is quite literally showing up. I mean, that's so much of it. And people think, everyone thinks, oh, balance, it's just all 50-50. Balance it's just doesn't work that way. And so I think I've gotten a lot better with time and experience in accepting that sometimes things have to wait. And sometimes I have to ask for help. Often I have to ask for help. Sometimes I have to weigh the important over the immediate and you got to pick and choose. And you really can't do both. And then sometimes you just got to let things go and give yourself grace and go, you know what? In 5 years, is this really going to matter? Is it really? Nothing that I do career-wise on a day-to-day basis is truly life and death. So sometimes you just got to let things go and carry on and not wallow in it. And I am not a wallower. I don't believe once the decision's made, we move on. We're not going to sit here and have remorse, regret, whatever, it's done. And sometimes, in all honesty, it is pouring from an empty cup. And sometimes that's me kind of losing my shish on my kids every once in a while and being hey, y'all, I just need you to sit down. Because I have feral children and boys and they're so good about giving me grace and love. But it's just sometimes I want to look at them and be sit down for 2 seconds.
Yeah. Or if you've served chicken nuggets for dinner 3 nights in a row, it's fine. You're feeding them.
1,000%. Yeah. I'm you know what? There's some leftover mac and cheese in there. You're not going to starve fun fact, we moved into a new house. It's like been a year and a half ago. I don't think I've mopped this house. Like we got 3 dogs and, a husband and 2 boys. And I'm like, you know what? I'll vacuum it. We'll vacuum and sweep the floors. But like, I'm not breaking out a mop on this house right now. It's just going to get muddy. Like, I'm not even worried about it. And you know what? They don't care. Turns out not one time has have my children walked in and like, Mom, the floor needs mopped.
Yeah, no, I totally.
And they're the ones that matter. So
Yeah, if they don't notice it and they're not worried about it, then it's fine.
yeah.
So you mentioned that you are somebody who is very introspective and you really notice things.
Yeah.
If I ask you the question, have you ever noticed signs of burnout in your team before they've brought it up? I know you're going to be able to say yes, but how do you approach that conversation with empathy, but still keep your business running? Because like you said, you can't just give somebody a month of vacation because one, that's not actually going to fix the problem. That's kind of like Advil for a headache. It stops the symptom, but why are we having the headache in the first place? But you also can't have your employee gone for a month because your business needs to run.
Not in my small business. I would be lost. I tell them
In a
that every
large
day.
business, it's different, but in a small business, definitely not the case.
No, 1,000%. I tell it's a running joke around here. Like, I'm not one of those keeper of the keys kind of humans. And so it's an ongoing joke that I'm like, y'all know that if I die tomorrow, like you have to figure out how to run this. Like you all got to pick up the ball and run. There's a document that exists. This is what it's called. Like you just got to hack into my computer. It's not even hard. There's no password on it. Like just log in and just take off and run with it. There's no harm, no foul, but it is and I tell my clients the same thing because for a long time it was just me. And then I had to like jokingly not joking, but I had to tell them, I'm like, hey, I can't do it anymore. And so I need to bring people in that can help facilitate achieve. If you want me to keep you, then I got to bring in people to help me because I can't do it. So it's either hire people or fire clients and you get to pick client. I'm leaving the ball in your court. But yeah, so actually last year I had absolutely one of my favorite humans on the planet. I noticed that it was, we were getting towards the end of the year and our year, just to give some perspective, our year's kind of cyclical. Because of a lot of what we do revolves around the equine industry and how it's seasonal. So show seasonal, certain shows are coming up all the time and need coverage. And then it's breeding seasonal. So my client base is very heavily steeped in big equine reproduction facilities. And so stallion stations, and things of that nature. And so I noticed that this particular individual I could just sense it, right? I'm fortunate that since it is a small team, I'm close with my people. And so outside of being work teammates, we're also friends. And I'm not going to claim to know everything that's going on in their life, just like they would not claim to know everything that's going on in mine. But I do have an overarching sense of, what's happening and what they're dealing with. I know they've got kids. I know they've got spouses. I know they've got, life, grandparents and family, so I have a sense of that. And you can also just sense, I'm an intuitive feeler type person in that I'm kind of a gut instinct person, I guess. So if I feel like something's off, then I'm not going to I might choose to ignore it, but I kind of still know it's there. And so in this particular case, the other thing that you probably know about me, but my team definitely knows about me is I am not really a passive communicator. I am a very blunt communicator. And they know that. They're prefaced on that from the beginning. Not in like a mean, aggressive, demeaning, harsh way, but just like if I have a question or if I feel like something needs to be said, I'm just going to say it kind of how it rolls off my tongue. And then I'll qualify it afterwards. So they know that. And I really just went to her and I said, hey, I feel like you're getting burned out and you've had a tough year. You've absolutely kicked ass. You've handled everything I've thrown at you, but we didn't foresee everything that was going to come down this line that got thrown at you. That wasn't your fault, my fault, or anyone else's, but here we are. And you're too good at what you do and you have too much potential to burn out. So I'm not calling you out from a place of you're not doing your job. I'm calling you out from a place of you deserve better. And as your leadership, it's my job to make sure you get that. And I don't know what that looks like for you, but we need to talk about it. So if you need to sit down and decide. And I just sat down with her and I just said, hey, you need to pick the clients you want. You need to decide what you want to do with them. And then the other pieces, I'll take that. And you don't need to feel guilty about that at all. That's not your weight to bear. That is because what we learned at the core of it isn't so much, it goes back to that pebble in the shoe piece. It isn't so much that she felt guilty because she wasn't doing a good job. She felt guilty because she wasn't able to do her job to the standard she knew she was capable of, which for a high achiever is it's incredibly hard to be able to live perpetually in this place of like not living up to your own expectations.
Yeah, you're just half-assing everything. Nobody wants, if you're a high achiever, nothing feels worse than knowing I am just doing a 50% and 50% and 50%. Like, no, I was put on this earth to do 100%.
100%. And to grow, not just to do the bare minimum 100%, but to like push myself beyond the 100%. Like, I'm already really good at these skills, but I know there's room to get better at them, you know? And I'm a big believer in hiring people that are better than you, right? That are truly better than you. And I don't say that from a place that like I'm not good enough, but I'm just saying I think there's a lot of leadership that, you know, is concerned about keeping their place. I'm a big collaboration over competition believer. I believe there's plenty of room at the table and I live it every day. I work with several people who do the exact same thing that I do. And we work collectively and cohesively together. That makes everyone's life better. I don't have to be in Tulsa right now, which I'm really stoked about because there are 3 girls up there doing all kinds of things and kicking ass, and I'm going to be there. And so that's ultimately what it came down to. And I said, you know, you're not failing by removing X, Y, and Z. You are we're advocating for you. We're advocating for your future. And more than anything, she loves the work that she does. She enjoys it. She chooses this. So let's not burn her out on it. She's incredibly good at it. And so we did. That's exactly what we did. And what that looks like a lot of times, and this is the part where I feel like leadership has to really take ownership and accountability, is I didn't have anyone to give that other stuff to in that moment. So I got to do it, right? Like, that's the thing, is I would never ask my team to do anything that I haven't done, honestly, or be willing to do myself. But sometimes that hard conversation looks a lot like leadership living into that role and going, okay, from an actionable standpoint, I'm in it for the long game. So let's figure out how to make this better for her. And I'll take it on and I'll solve this problem. Like, me as leader and business owner, that's truly the role I'm put here for. And so that's what we did for her. And it's been an amazing shift, an amazing change. It's been so cool to watch her grow and flourish and honestly enjoy life again. And so I have 0 complaints about, that's how I do it. And it wasn't even a hard conversation. So much of the things that we think are going to be hard conversations really aren't that hard whenever we're able to just speak our mind and not try to wrap them up in some pretty bow and make it less than what it is.
I think the longer we wait to have them, the harder they actually get, because it's kind of like a sliver that just festers.
Yeah.
And that's never a good situation. We do not want an infection.
Well, and that's ultimately where you end up in burnout. I mean, truly, she wasn't there from a point of like, but I could just, it's that thread of seeing that we're headed in this direction. Like, I can hear it in the tone of her voice. I never want to be the phone call that someone sees come across and they're like, oh God, what does she want me to do now? And don't get me wrong, we joke all the time that that's how my team feels about me. They draft at least 1 email a week that's like, you again. But ultimately, I really don't. I want them to know that, like, I'm here to advocate for you. I've been you, so I'm here to advocate and make your life better. And I truly value my team, and from a place of like, I don't want you to burn out. You can't live in that perpetual place. We can live there for a while, but you can't live there forever. And since then, we've solved, not just for them, but also for the clients. Your clients aren't getting the best service they can get either whenever you have employees that are burned out and not able to live up to their own expectations. So the work she's been putting out since then for those clients has even grown exponentially. And I've just fallen in love with it even more. And so that's what resolving the issue has done for us. I mean, as a team collectively, we've added some more people. We've done some things. I've kept some things. We've just shifted some stuff around, and the world's still going round. And she's just in a better place, and it's working better for everyone.
I think that is such a powerful story in noticing it after the fact. But let's talk about, what are some ways that you can keep an eye on burnout for your employees before it hits?
So for me, I think that it is having this, and some of it is just, like I said, I'm an INTP, and I spend a lot of time now honing in on awareness. And I never intended to be here. It was never like I said, I've curated this accident that I've ended up in, and it was just really never like a part of the plan. So I actually really fought hiring a team for a long time, because I was a solopreneur, one-stop shop. Like, I was fine with that. And so It's an evolution, I guess, is the best way to put it. It's an evolution in realizing as I've added more people to my team in learning who they are and having a broad sense of awareness, kind of that bird's eye view of like, what's everyone got going on right now? And not just from a place of work going on, because I think it's very easy, especially in big organizations, to not really know what's going on in your people's lives. And so it's easy to lose sight of the fact that there is everything else. And it all has to come together in this harmonious dance and interplay. And so for me, it's having an awareness and being able to go, okay, it's having consistent communication. It's kind of taking a pulse on everyone, like, hey, how you doing? It's sharing some wins and seeing like, yes, I think it was yesterday, I sent a screenshot from a client that said, hey, we're really grateful for all, we really appreciate all the work you're doing. We really like the work we're seeing. And it's not an account that I'm talking social media in this particular case. It's like not accounts that I manage. And so I just, very graciously responded back, thank you so much. I'll make sure and pass that along to my team, screenshot it, send it to the team and was like, hey, just wanted to make sure you saw this. Like, thanks for all the work you do. And the response I got back was, thanks, I really needed a win today. I don't know why they need a win today, but that's a trigger for me to say, you know what, I'm really glad I sent that because that gives me it could be that they have a lot going on personally because I know I have a low-key idea of what's going on work-wise, and I know the workload isn't necessarily insane right now. So that gives me a sense of like their personal life may have something, happening.
Right. Is it more than they just like spilled coffee down their shirt that day and it's been a rough morning?
Because so many people, and I know like I'm not the first one to jump up whenever I'm having a hard day and be like, hey, I'm having a hard day, such and such. And this, you just feel like I'm not a complainer. So it's like you're not going to complain about everyday life things that everyone's got shit. That's what I say. Like everyone has shit that's going on in life. And we don't all need to know about it. We don't have to talk about it, but it's still there and they're still feeling it. And so for me, being able to see that and head that off is having a sense of what the big picture looks like for them. Do they have a new baby? Do they have 3-year-olds like me? Is it cold and flu season? Because we all know what that's like whenever we've got toddlers going to daycare and you're paying, for childcare that they're not maybe using, but, 60% of the time because they're home with a fever that you can't explain. And so all of those things weigh into this place of, beginning to build up a resentment towards work, towards those little pebble in the shoe things get much bigger whenever life is harder. And so for me, it's just having that overarching, kind of sense of awareness, checking their pulse, listening for the little things, the tone of their voice, the responses that I get via text message. Are they different than what they've been in the past? Do I need to just call and check in? Stuff like that. How long has it been since I've given a win? I am not and you probably get this as a business owner, no one's patting our back and telling us good job. So naturally, I'm not the world's, and I don't need that. Like I'm not a validation kind of person. And so I don't need it a lot, but I do know that other people do need that. And it's good to give that praise. And I have to be conscious in reminding myself like, hey, when was the last time I told them good job and told them thank you and that I appreciate them or those kinds of things. So as far as just very specific things, I don't know that I have a ton of them. I think for me, it's an awareness, a greater sense of awareness that's not self-absorbed, but a sense of awareness outside of you and the presence of your team. And then also just having real conversations with real people and asking them how they are. And if you get the sense and giving them the freedom to give you honest answers. People will, especially employees, will be guarded if you allow them to be guarded. And so I try to very much be on their level. I don't ever try to look at myself as the boss or the leader. I try to refer to my team, and I don't see myself that. So it's not a weird thing to be. I see us as an even playing team field. Like it's easy for me to do that. It's not a hard thing for me to do. I try to be on their level and help them as a friend before I would be their boss or management.
I think that makes so much sense. And you brought up something early on in that answer that I want to circle back to. And that is, as a solo entrepreneur, can we talk about the crossroad that is knowing you can't take on any more clients and knowing you can't even give any more to your current clients and maybe being a little bit reluctant to hire, but hiring being the best decision that can then help you avoid that burnout, or even if it's not burnout, just avoid you from giving your clients and customers less of what they expect?
Yeah, this is still a fluid process for me. I'll be totally
I think
honest.
it is fluid for everybody.
Fluid for everyone. So I'm not great at saying no. I'm getting better, or I'm at least getting better at saying yes to the ones that are higher value in some way. They got to present with some measure of higher value than just, do I need the work? Because the reality of, I'm fortunate, I've been doing this for about 10 years now. And the truth is I really don't need the work. So when people are like, hey, what do you do for marketing? And I'm like, I don't market. I don't do that anymore. No one really knows my business. It's okay. I'm cool with it. It's totally word of mouth. But yeah, so hiring. And it really did come down to, for me, it came down to this place of, I had to look at it. One, I was spending way too much time on my phone because we're all guilty of it. And when you manage equine marketing with the state of social media, the way that it is, I was just spending way too much time on my phone and So for me, it came down to that. And I took on a couple of really incredible, like the clients that you start the business hoping you'll get someday, and took on a couple of those in a matter of like a year. And in order to be able to service them at all, I just knew it wasn't going to be possible. But also knowing the direction that we just didn't know the direction social media was going to go in, right? I mean, a couple years ago, in the initial Facebook era, you still had to have like a student login, and there were no photos and all the things.
No, who knows where it's going to be in the next 6 months? Like,
Oh, that's the thing.
Facebook and social media like that is fluid.
Oh my gosh. And it's a little terrifying. So I knew really quickly that I wasn't going to be able to do it all by myself. And so ironically enough, I told myself I was going to hire someone, and I would keep them. I would give it a year of hiring one person and seeing if I could handle it. And it was going to have to be the right person, or else I was just going to have to fire some clients, and I would pick or choose a few of them. But like, I was going to have to let go some of my smaller clients for these bigger ones, but I didn't want to do that because there was some there's just so much there. I didn't want to do that. And ultimately I didn't, because I'm very close with a lot of my clients too. So my business is heavily built on the personal relationships that I have with, most of these people are people I would go drink beer with. They're all really good people. And so I hired my first person, ironically, through Of the West. I know, right? And so I had put out this job posting, and they contacted me, and we got together, and it all came full circle. And like I said, I always try to hire people better than me. And I just got this overwhelming sense. One, she was younger than me, which needed to happen because I need someone who wants to be younger and do younger.
Keep up with the trends.
Yeah, like keep up with the trends, whatever those are, who could speak TikTok. And because I still refuse to speak TikTok or even log into TikTok. And so I needed someone younger than me. And then she was just I just got this overwhelming sense of, she's a go-getter. Like, she's a self-doer. I'm not a micromanager. And I tell my whole team knows that. Like, if you're not hearing from me, then please, by all means, go forth and conquer. And if you do something and I don't like it on the backside, like, that's on me. Don't sit around and wait on me. Yeah, so it's a really hard thing to balance, but that was where it came to. And then ultimately, as things evolved and continued to evolve, I just realized I had an opportunity to bring someone on board that also was ready to make a transition out of a breeding career. Again, someone I've known for 7-8 years. And I was like, I think we can train you. I think we can teach you how to do this. Like, again, got the go-getter, hustler mentality, not a sit around, do nothing kind of person. And so I don't know if there's a right formula for how to know when and how and what to hire. I think absolutely for us, it had gotten to a point, or for me personally, it had gotten to a point where I just didn't have a personal life at all. And I wasn't sleeping much at all. And in order to serve my clients well, not just today, but knowing that there would be growth in the future, I can't just plan for today. Like, I know where we are today is fine, but a year from now, it will probably look different. And so that was kind of the breaking point for me. And then since then, I guess, so she's been with me now going on 3 years. And so we've survived the storm. I don't know what I would do without her at this point. I definitely think the team could survive without me, but I couldn't survive without them. And my clients most definitely couldn't. And I love seeing it now, because my favorite wins now, and this is the cool part, and I tell everyone this is a cool part now for me, is the big wins for me are the days that my team executes and I'm not needed. Like, that was at the Breeders' Challenge finale this past year. I had a massive emergency come up on like the very last day that had absolutely nothing to do with that event. And I had to leave. Like, Saturday morning of the culmination of the race, I had to leave. And I had 2 different videographers there and, managers there. And I never turned on a camera that day. I never stepped foot in the arena that day. And I would open my phone and stuff is just happening. Like things are rolling out. No one's calling me. They don't miss me. I ended up, when I did get back, I ended up spending the whole entire afternoon just packing and moving that whole, just packing the event out with some of the other team members. And it was like the coolest feeling ever to do that. Or getting messages from clients and they say, hey, really, really happy with the work that you all are doing. And I had nothing to do with it. I quite literally didn't have anything to do with it other than being the client interface in that, situation.
Yeah, you were the middleman.
I'm straight up the middleman. And I love that. I love that. I just absolutely, those are the coolest wins to see them, to get online and to see them growing or to get content from them and just be like, wow. I say, this is living out what I said. Like I wanted to hire people that are better than me. And one of my video editors sent me the other day and I had asked her to do this project and she sent it back and I was just like mind blown. I'm like, I couldn't do this without, I probably could but it would take me so much work. And so just knowing that she's been able to exponentially grow to that point over the last couple of years. And now it's put in place it's just the coolest thing ever to be on this side of it and to watch other people grow.
Oh, it totally is. And honestly, I think that's one of the reasons or the biggest reason that we hire is because we do kind of want to be able to be the middleman in our business in the sense that we don't have to do all of the things. And that is really one of those next steps into combating personal burnout and still being able to, be personally fulfilled and be part of your family and still provide for your customers, your clients, and for the lives of other people as well. So,
yeah.
Okay, we've got to get to our rapid fire round. First question for you. What do you hope people remember most about you?
That's hard. I don't necessarily want people to remember any one thing about me. I think what's important to me is that when my name is mentioned in a room, in a conversation, in any capacity, that there's this sense of goodness that comes from within them. I know what it's like to be in a room and someone bring up, someone else walking, a person walk in a room or a name get mentioned and there's this, like lingering sense of negativity or annoyance or dread or like they're not. I just truly want people to know that I was just a champion for being a good human. I'm not exceptionally great at any one thing. I never wanted to pick up a camera. I'm not trying to be an exceptional photographer, editor, videographer, any of those artistic-y things. But I just want to, if anyone can remember anything about me, it's just this, I showed up with integrity and grit and I kept going until the work was done. And I was just an all-around good human.
Well, I have no doubts that's exactly how people are going to remember you. So no worries there. Okay, what is one non-negotiable in your life?
So many things, but this one was actually really easy and comes to me very easily. It's, and it has nothing to do with, it does kind of, but it doesn't. A commitment to health, just an overarching commitment to health, physical, mental, emotional. I think that God gave us our bodies, our beings, ourselves. And I think we owe it to Him and to our time here to be healthy and to seek that out. And it's not a destination. It's 1000% a journey. I've been 175 pounds. I've been 125 pounds. I've been healthy at 140 pounds and 100. But I think, so many people think of health and they think of your physical self, but I have a therapist. I spend time with myself. I think in solitude and self-reflection are incredibly important, especially as you work through these different hard seasons of life. Mm-hmm. And it's very easy to get lost. So for me, a non-negotiable is just a commitment to overall health and the health journey.
Yeah, you absolutely have to make yourself a priority in life. If you were a professional athlete, what would your walk-up song be?
Oh, geez. So I'm a music junkie. That's fun. I'm a music junkie of all genres. But I would have to say either AC/DC, You Shook Me All Night Long, or the White Stripes, Seven Nation Army.
Ooh, those are both good.
The intros for both of those are just very, like you can just hear, you can feel them. You feel them in your bones.
I love those. Okay, what is the smartest thing somebody's ever told you?
My therapist, I actually have a post-it on my desk that I remember that I wrote down from a conversation with my therapist. And it said, noticing and naming things has a certain power. Clarify your thoughts, listen with intention, be slow to speak and slower to respond. And I have to tell myself to slow down regularly.
Oh man, can you take a picture of that and maybe text it to me after this? Because I think I need all of that on a daily reminder. I was actually thinking about that just this morning, and I was really proud of myself because sometimes I can be quick to react on certain things.
Yep.
And today I really took this approach of like, okay, I need to slow it down. I really need to like get around this 360 before I do whatever is next.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it gets easier as you do get older and wiser.
Oh, we're not old.
We're not old. We're not old. We're definitely not. Hey,
We're probably not very wise.
Probably not, but I try to tell myself every now and then I have to remind myself, I'm like, oh yeah, I am supposed to be steering this ship. They are looking to me. No one's above me. I gotta kind of do something. So I guess maybe I'm the human today.
Yeah, no one's going to whisper the answers in your ear. That's for sure.
No one is going to do that.
Last question for us. Favorite things. Do you have a favorite podcast or book or service or some kind of life hack maybe that you've learned as a mom of two or a wife? Something that has changed your life that you just want to share with people?
So too many books and podcasts and things to name. So I have a tattoo on my arm from, which you can't really see, it stems from the book The Alchemist. One of my high school history teachers gave that to me, and I carried it around my nightstand for probably 10 years before I actually read it. But yeah, so The Alchemist, and the word on it, it's maktub, and it means it is written. To me, that relates back to the Christian side of biblically, like God has a plan for our life, and it's our job to show up and keep living it out. So there's that one. The Alchemist is huge. Big Magic, if you're a creative, from Elizabeth Gilbert. The Creative Act with Rick Rubin, incredible as well. And then if you would like to attempt to like running or anything of those natures, I personally hate running, but I do it regularly, and I have a love-hate relationship and respect for it. But Born to Run by Christopher McDougall changed my life in terms of running, and I love that. And for podcast, I'm a big Huberman Lab person. Andrew Huberman is incredible. So love Huberman and Lex Friedman, Sean Ryan, Joe Rogan. I listen to all of them, but Huberman's pretty great. Life hacks I don't have so much of. I'm kind of just to show up, get through the day. I'm an efficiency, like a nut job when it comes to trying to be more efficient with my life. I think that efficiency is the most effective and path to freedom. So I try to get more efficient in every.
On that question, I will ask for your team, communication wise, do you guys use like ClickUp, Slack, Asana, any of those?
We do use Asana, and I like Asana. I'm not great at it. My team would tell you I'm not. For me, the hack for me is figuring out the most efficient, effective way from point A to point B, because I'm always the cog in the wheel for my team.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I've learned when it comes to like giving feedback and things, in order for me to be fast for them, I have to figure out how I'm fastest. So like for my graphic designer, for example, whenever I'm giving her communication, instead of writing it out in an email, I just pull up my phone and I video something to send her, and I just talk her through it, because that's way faster for me than trying to like mark up a PDF. We're very casual communicators over here. And so if it's sending a screenshot, a text message or whatever, like I am whatever gets the message there quickest and most effectively for you, then great. And I tell my team all the time, if you have a problem with the way I'm giving you feedback, you need to speak now or forever hold your peace, because I'm going to give it to you in the fastest way I can.
I love that. I will say, if for people who are listening who run teams, Loom, kind of like what you just said, is being able to show you so you can record your screen. So I use that often when it comes to of the West users. If employers have questions, if they email us and say, hey, I'm struggling to do this, can log into the backside of their account and I can record my screen doing the action. And then I can send them the link so they can watch the video of how it can be done, and they can do it themselves. Because I think a lot of us are visual learners, like we need to see it done. And so anyways, for those of you who are listening, Loom, not that anybody asked, but we do use
I will have
Slack.
to try that, because that would be super handy in terms of graphic design, because I do feel myself, design is one of those things that's very, very hard to communicate. And so much of it is like trial and error. And I don't know if you've spent much time in Photoshop or anything like that, but if you do, there's
no. That's not my wheelhouse.
There's so many tools. And it's like anything else, you evolve and get to know there's so many that I don't even use or know about. But point being is, until you are so to a certain place in your creative design journey, you don't even know that those tools exist. And so I constantly find myself wanting to figure out a better way to coach my team through how to do designy things in Photoshop and to make them better. One, they grow with the learning and they didn't have to go YouTube it, which is probably how I had to do it. So I'll have to try out Loom, because I haven't done that and I could see that being super helpful.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Well, Sammie, thank you so much for today's conversation. This was fabulous. You had mentioned that you're going to send over some resources for us, and I will make sure that we include those in the show notes for you guys so that you, our listeners, have access to those, whether you are experiencing burnout yourself, if you are worried about maybe a coworker or a friend, if you are a leader and you've got an employee or somebody on your team that is experiencing it. We definitely want to make sure that we give you guys some awesome resources in that. You guys know the drill. Please share your favorite takeaway from today. Make sure to tag Of the West, tag Sammie. Where can people find you online? I guess I should share that first.
So Instagram for sure is the best place. I'll be honest, I don't spend a ton of time online. I spend time there, but I'm a terrible poster. But it's Sammie McCracken on Instagram. And then if you want to follow along with the equine stuff, it's at Buckskin Rowe, and it's ROWE. And yeah, so those would be the two best places to find me. I mean, I have Facebook, but I don't really spend a lot of time there. That's for mom. That's for my grandma, the grandmas and the aunts and all the friends from back.
I love that. So yeah, make sure to tag Sammie, tag Buckskin Rowe, share it in your stories. We always love and appreciate those. If you haven't already and you love today's episode, you can rate and review over on Apple. That makes a big difference to us. And you guys know you can find us back here next week with a brand new episode of Leaders of the West. Thank you, Sammie.
If you loved this episode, do us a favor and share it with someone else who might find just as much value in it as you did. We're on a mission to continue to grow and strengthen the future of agriculture and Western industries, and you spreading the word helps us make more of a positive impact. It also makes a big difference when you take a minute to go rate and review the show. We can't thank you enough for listening, for sharing, and for loving Ag and Western as much as we do. We'll see you back here for our next episode.